All right, let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our Jira Service Management for ITSM webinar. We are so glad you're able to join us today for this overview of how to manage your ITSM processes within Jira Service Management. I'm Brad Wood. I'm a consultant with Valiantys. I'm an Atlassian Certified Professional, and I'm joined today with Rachel O'Neil. She is also with Valiantys and also an Atlassian Certified Professional. We're happy to have her here today for this webinar. And today the two of us are going to walk you through Jira Service Management to highlight its strengths and capabilities related to your ITSM processes. So let's look at the agenda for today's webinar. We are already in our introduction, so we've got some information to go through here, and then we're going to jump into some demos and examples of ITSM processes and the way those can be managed within Jira Service Management. And we'll wrap up with a little bit of time for Q&A. So do encourage you to use the Q&A function in Zoom if you have any questions as we're presenting. We'll try to answer some of those questions kind of in the background if we can. Otherwise, we'll take them live at the end of the webinar. This webinar does build upon our Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar, which we held last week. You can watch recordings of that on our YouTube page. If you were able to join us for that webinar, I hope you got some great fundamental knowledge of Jira Service Management. And like I mentioned, that one, along with this one, will be posted on our Valiantys YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it at a later time. This webinar is going to be a little bit more advanced than the fundamentals webinar. And like I mentioned, we'll focus on the ITSM feature set within Jira Service Management. These two webinars really do go hand in hand to kind of paint that complete picture of Jira Service Management and all the features found within it. For today's presentation, it is helpful to have some basic understanding and experience with JSM, but it's by no means required, and it won't inhibit the learning process here this afternoon. Some of those topics in that fundamentals webinar include project types, elevated agent costs. We've got free customers in our JSM product. We have the customizable customer portal. We talk about queues, SLAs, the knowledge base, and we touch a little bit on automation in that webinar. So again, check that out on our YouTube page if you would like to. So here's kind of a quick breakdown of some of the things we are going to cover today. We're going to talk through some of the features and applications that are used in JSM in order to showcase that full range of ITSM capabilities. One of those is Assets, which is JSM's asset and configuration management tool. It is native to JSM, but only available in the cloud and only available at the premium level or higher. Opsgenie, also now known as Operations, is our alert and incident management system. It's native with JSM Premium. It is a separate product in Data Center. We're going to use automation today. If you're familiar with Jira in any capacity, you are no doubt familiar with using and maybe even configuring your own automation rules. Completely out of the box, the only difference between the tier level of JSM is with the allotted number of rule executions per month. So that is a native feature with all of our different tiers of JSM Cloud. And then we'll touch a little bit on Statuspage. It's a completely separate product. It's not included in any tier of JSM. It is an Atlassian product, however, and it serves as an internal and external communication solution. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the webinar. And Atlassian themselves actually use Statuspage to communicate status updates to products in their ecosystem. So if you want to check out Atlassian's Statuspage, you can see that product being used in the real world. So our demos this morning, we're going to start with our service management demo. We cover service management a little bit in that fundamentals webinar, but today we're going to look at service management and how to integrate it with the assets feature of Jira Service Management. We'll move on to incident management, and we'll cover how JSM handles incidents, giving your service desk team the tools they need to respond to incidents in a timely and effective manner, as well as a bit of discussion on problem management and post-incident reviews. And then lastly, we will talk about change management. We will discuss how JSM can help you manage changes within your organization, give insight into the effects and even possible risks of enacting changes, and provide the insight you need to make informed decisions related to changes. We'll talk a little bit about knowledge management and enterprise service management during that section as well. Before we jump into the tool, a little bit about Valiantys. We're a Platinum Solutions partner of Atlassian. We provide a number of different services based around Atlassian products, 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. We've been the partner of the year 13 times. We've worked with 65 of the global Fortune 500 organizations. We do have a full stack development center in our organization as well that works on custom solutions related to Atlassian products. We're Atlassian's first global partner, and we provide 24/7 global coverage with over 600 team members. And some of the services we provide here at Valiantys around Atlassian products include consulting, licensing, integration and development, managed services, and even training, like this webinar and like our boot camps, which I'm going to talk about our next JSM boot camp right now. Our next JSM boot camp is coming up on January 21st. It's right around the corner. Our boot camps are deep dive, multiple day courses designed for administrators, and in this case, service desk managers for our JSM boot camp. They're focused on retention. They are interactive workshops designed to leave you feeling confident in your understanding and use of the tools and processes. This boot camp also covers assets, Opsgenie, and Statuspage. And again, we're going to look at some of that this morning, but we'll take a much deeper dive into those tools in the boot camp. And we do have other boot camps that we offer as well related to Jira software, Confluence, etc. So check out our page, valiantys.com/training, for all of the details on our boot camps. All right, so let's get into our first demo. I'm going to set the stage here briefly, and then I'm going to toss it over to Rachel, and she's going to go through our service management and asset demo, as well as our incident management demo. And then I'll pick it up towards the end with change management. So this is our first demo, assets and service management. So who is this for? Our service teams, our IT teams. The challenge that we see our service teams faced with is how do we easily track and manage our assets, as well as services and service requests related to those assets. What's the solution? It's Jira Service Management, an easy to maintain assets database within JSM that seamlessly integrates with our ticketing system, which is JSM. And the tools we are using for this demo, JSM, assets, and automation. So without further ado, I will toss it over to Rachel, and she's going to walk us through our first demo.
Thank you, Brad. Second. Okay, so this is our customer-facing section. Oh, am I sharing my screen?
Yep, looks
okay,
good.
Great. So this is our customer-facing section of Jira Service Management, in which users can submit requests and tickets for a wide variety of needs. We won't have time today to go deeper into the Help Center in extensive detail, but we do cover this topic and spend a significant amount of time demoing this topic in our JSM Fundamentals webinar, which again, you'll be able to view on our YouTube channel if you'd like to review some of those fundamental JSM topics. So let's head into our IT Service Desk portal, where we are right now. So this currently is the Greater Help Center, but if we scroll down, we see a number of featured portals. In this case, we're going to click on IT Service Desk. And now I'm going to select the Computers Portal group. All of those different portal groups have different request types in them. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on Request New Laptop. But one other thing to know about, if I need to get to other portal groups from this screen, we can just look at the Contact Us field here and pick the correct portal for us. So I'm going to click on Request New Laptop. One thing to note, everything with a red asterisk means that we have to put a value in for this field. So just to note that. In this case, I'm going to say that current equipment is damaged. These are all the different fields that are on this particular request type, with a couple of them being what we call custom field. I'm going to add some details in here. And then I'm also going to select my model. Just as a note, this is an asset management field, and we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. Once we know that all of our fields have our values in it, we're going to go ahead and click on Send. And now we have our final view of the submitted ticket here. There are a couple of different options here on the right, so I can turn notifications on if I wanted to, or I can cancel this request as well. This is going to give me all the different context for what I had just submitted, and I can start to see some activity at the bottom, such as this request is requiring approval. We need one approval for this to go through. Also, one thing to note at the very top, there is a status page. So we can see that there are some website issues, and we'll talk about that during our incidents. And reminder, this is customer facing as opposed to the agent background. So we're going to go ahead and leverage, in terms of the automatic response down there, this is going to be leveraged utilizing automation rules to set that approver based on a couple of different things that we have set up in asset management. Let's take a look at what the actual backend looks like from an agent point of view. So this is the request that I just submitted, and there are some things that are unique about this request related specifically to asset management and asset object fields. This field right here under laptop models is an asset management field. So this asset object field has been configured to display additional information via the attribute fields, which we'll show you when we talk about associating attributes to an object in a few minutes. In terms of the different attribute fields, if we click on this little squiggly here, we can see a bunch of different information. On the far right here, we can see additional attribute fields for this particular object within a schema within asset management in JSM. So I can see things like the key, I can see things like the name for this particular model, when this was created in asset management, the last time that it was updated, which vendor it is, the screen size, and etc. We can also add additional attributes as needed. The visual on my left is going to show me all the connections for this particular model of the MacBook. So I can see that these are individually owned and utilized laptops for, let's say, internal employees. And then this happens to be the vendor or manufacturer for this. Also, we can see a linked issues here. So if I click on linked issues, we can see that there are new laptop requests that may be related to this particular model. So we can see that quite a few people have this particular model. And if we scroll through the different pages, we can see additional tickets that are related to requests specifically for this particular model of this laptop. If we had additional hardware in here, so if we had additional fields, let's say we had just a request hardware type request type within the portal, we could add on additional hardware to this. So we don't necessarily just have to have one ticket for a laptop. We could have a ticket for a laptop, a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, other equipment as well. Over in the detail section, we can also see a couple of things. Number one, so this is the approver. We used automation to set this approver. In this case, it's going to be, I believe, Vicky Murphy is going to need to be the approvers for this. I can also add additional approvers if I wanted to from right here. And also one thing to note is here. So this is the affected equipment field. This is also an asset management field. So again, if I click on the little squiggly there, I can see that this is my current laptop. So this current laptop is associated to me, and this has my location set as St. Louis. And this is my current model of the laptop that I have. It is now putting this status as damaged because I've now created that request for this new laptop. And it's going to update a couple of things too as well. And I can also see if there are any other linked issues with this, apart from the one that we happen to be looking at. This can help us give insight into if one particular model has lots of incidents related to it or requests related to it, that we might want to switch to a different model. Lots of other pieces of information to glean from asset management utilizing automation as well. So if I expand just a little bit from here, I don't actually have to click on the squiggly. I can just expand it and see some immediate attribute information on the bottom as well. For some more insights, there are references related to asset management. References is how JSM added my old laptop directly to this ticket. Utilizing references and automation can result in powerful efficiency gains as tickets are created and worked in JSM. A reference is a connection between two asset objects in JSM. So for an example, let's briefly look at the asset section. So assets is a very scalable and robust tool which can be configured in a variety of ways. Here we see all of our object schemas, which all contain different types of objects. Asset management is made up of 3 different pieces: the object schema, so the container for those objects, the objects themselves, and an object can be anything from a laptop to a software license. Really anything that you can upload into the system can be viewed as an object or an asset. In this case, if I wanted to go to IT employee assets, this is the schema that contains all the different object types that we have created that can be assigned to an individual employee. And if we look just quickly in our laptop here, so this is the list of actual laptops that are currently owned. But if we wanted to see just the models themselves, this is where the third piece comes in. So we had our object schemas, our objects, these 4 pieces being the individual objects themselves. And then the third piece are the attributes that support all the information for that particular object. One other thing to note that's a really cool action here is you can make bulk actions to your assets, and you can also create filters to see additional pieces. Once you create a filter, so in this case, I want to see a filter that only shows me the MacBook Pro 13-inch. When I update that filter, not only is it going to give me the information that I'm looking for, but it's also under the advanced AQL is going to give me the AQL expression for this if I happen to need it for an automation role per se. This is a really easy way to get ahead of the AQL language query when you're trying to learn that. So for my example, I think we had seen previously that my particular laptop was marked as damaged, and you can see one of those here as well. These are the references that we were talking about. You can have inbound and outbound references that we set up. So if I click on this object graph again, we can see the different inbound and outbound references coming in for this particular owned laptop for Sarah. We can also set statuses automatically, again, utilizing automation rules. We can set many different items for all of these attributes, depending on the use case for them. In our employee section, let's go back to assets. Here we have our internal org chart built out. So let's take a look at how it's configured. Within this schema, we see that we have an object type called employee with each of our actual employees configured as objects. On each employee, we can see all the different attributes that are associated with that employee. These are created and added to the objects via the attributes tab. So if I were to just click on attributes, this is the main list of all of the attributes that currently exist for these employee objects. And we can easily add additional attributes as needed from this screen as well. One other thing to note, if I were to pick on, let's say, Wade, we can also see things like department and manager. These are going to be really important. So when picking the approver for my personal laptop, my manager is listed as Vicky, who happens to be my manager, and she would be the one who is automatically assigned to approve this request of mine. If it were Wade asking for something, then Brian Gar would be the requester automatically added to that ticket as an approver. That's all for our service and asset management demo. We're now going to transition into the incident demo. So for incident management, the challenge for IT teams are responding quickly to get things back on track and ensure a proper follow-up. The solution is fourfold: centrally managed alerting, tracking of deployments and service relationships, the incident command center, as well as integrated communications. The tools that we'll be utilizing for this are Jira Service Management, Opsgenie, Statuspage, as well as Confluence. Let's take a look. So we're actually going to go back to the Help Center first by clicking on Channels and opening up our portal. And we're going to go to the Servers and Infrastructure group. I'm going to click on Report a System Problem. And right away, we know that this is where we need to be. And we're going to start summarizing this problem. So we're going to say that the system is down. And right away, we can also see that there are some suggested articles here. These are part of the knowledge base. These knowledge base articles are based on Confluence web pages. Anything that you can do in a Confluence web page, you can also do in this knowledge base article. So think URLs, graphics, tables, macros, narrative, links to other outside information sources. All of that is available in the knowledge base here. These are stored in the backend here in Confluence too, and you only need to be in JSM. If you don't happen to be a user of Confluence, a space is given to you when you purchase JSM, and all of that lives within the interface in JSM. The idea is to help our customers solve their own problems, and also to provide insight into what they might be experiencing via these related articles. So, for example, if you had a password reset, that's something that a user can do on their own. We would have a knowledge base article to let them know that there is that available so that they don't have to create a ticket, thus creating less tickets for our agents to go through so they can devote their time on things that they really need to be helping out with more. So in this case, I'm going to add a little bit more detail. And then I'm going to check my affected services. In this case, I'm going to click on payroll. Say hi for this, and we'll say significant. All of these fields can be bespoke with help text, different values, different kinds of drop downs and selections, different radio buttons. Really, this is configured to your use case specifically. And now that we have all of our fields filled in, I'm going to go ahead and click on send. And also, this happens to be another asset field here with the affected services. Services can also be categorized and utilized as assets within asset management. And also, one thing to note up here, let's say I had a problem with the website. As we can see with view status page here, I'm just going to open this up. If I were to come into the help desk and say, for a different reason, like the website happens to be down, I could see this status page update, and that may make me want to take a step back and wait until I actually put a submittal in for that, because I know that there were already problems. So this way, I can just go to the status page and see that there are some website issues. So in this case, if I were to have a problem with the website, I probably wouldn't put a ticket in, because I wouldn't need to, because I already know that there's a problem. So status page really helps you keep updates coming to your customers for all the different services that they want to see. You can also subscribe to these different alerts as well. Going back here, I'm going to go ahead and click on send now. And here we are. Again, we've got our context here in the middle, and we can still see that there's a status page update at the top too that will follow for the different portal. And again, we can see our status is open. My notifications are currently turned on, and I can see my different request type that I just put in. I can also add additional comments here if need be. So let's take a look at this in the portal, or in the agent backend itself. Okay. So we want to find the cause of this outage as quickly and effectively as possible in order to resolve this issue in a timely manner. So one of the things that we do is we review the affected services fields. So this can give us a list of open incidents related to this particular field if we hover along this little triangle here. So if I click on that, I'm automatically going to be given a little panel here, which is going to show me that there are currently 2 other open incidents on the payroll system. This can help paint a bigger picture of incidents in general, promote communication across your team members or possibly other teams, and ultimately help lead to a quicker resolution of the issue. When you have all of the pieces of information for a particular incident at your fingertips, and it just helps you to resolve it quicker. It can also help to provide insight that maybe there is a much larger issue at hand. So if we have 10 or more, or even 2 in this case, depending on the kind of service it is, this can help us to involve the right responder teams as soon as we can. One thing to note, we can also see that this happens to be a tier 1 service. If we were to click on this, oh, this happens to be the tier 3. There is another one that is a tier 1 service. So we have our different tiers for each service. If this happened to be a tier 1 service, it would show us a different set of information as well. If it is a tier 1 or even a tier 2, as we can see, this will play a bigger part in change management, but we can see changes because we can also see changes on affected services, which is a list of any change requests that have been submitted related to that same affected service, which is the case for, let's say, the website. It may be the case for payroll as well. This is powered by including the affected services asset object field on not just our incidents requests, but our change requests as well. This also provides insight into any changes that may be currently happening, which could explain the cause of our incident request. If a change does not go through successfully, it may bring down that service and hence the incident issue. One thing to note is we also have the investigate button at the top of our incident, which connects to Bitbucket, which is our CI/CD pipeline. So I'm going to click into this just to show what we're talking about here. This will show any recent code deployments that are related to this service. And these deployments may give us more insight into the incident request that was submitted as a possible cause. We'll spend more time covering Bitbucket later in this webinar. In the activity section, you may have noticed that there is an extra button that says Inform Stakeholders. The stakeholder feature is a part of the advanced ITSM feature set in JSM and would include individuals who need to be aware of an incident, but aren't necessarily going to be actively working on a ticket, and they may not even be an agent. So we use this function to send an email to both the incident responders of that affected service and anyone else who has been added to that stakeholder list to keep them informed and to possibly help to resolve a certain incident. One thing to note also, there is a major incident toggle here. So what happens with the major incident is number one, if this queue isn't already set up in your project, you can create it using the same process that we covered in our JSM Fundamentals webinar, which is posted on YouTube for those who weren't able to attend. But this is when we click on this, immediately notifications are going to go out to a major incident team or whichever kind of team you want to call it. So as opposed to waiting for this incident to run through its typical escalation and routing rules, this is immediately going to get thrown to the team that is tasked with resolving things like tier 1 incidents and things that are wide scale that really affect a lot of our customers or our internal employees. This really represents the totality of the out-of-the-box functionality when it comes to incident management. However, there is also Opsgenie that we can use, all of those Opsgenie functions that we can take a look at in just a second. One other thing to note is a PIR. So we can also add a post-incident review for an issue type, and we can fill out the appropriate fields directly from this window. So if I click on Add PIR, this is going to give me a list of different fields to put in. So we can take a look at this incident after it's been resolved so that we can hopefully make sure it doesn't happen again, maybe set up some guardrails. There are quite a few different post-incident actions that we can take. But let's take a look at one that we've already created. And that's right here. So a couple of things to note. We can see the primary incident is listed here, and it's already linked in with a previous incident for the website itself. We can also see a timeline of all the different activity for that particular incident. So we can see who's been updating it, if there's any automation for this, who is adding responders to this particular incident, and a few other pieces of information as well, including the assignee. All of that happens as well. And I can even open up this incident right from here as well. Let's go back to this ticket and review a couple of different advanced features related to incident management. So a couple of things to note, you can also utilize this in Slack, Microsoft Teams, or Zoom. We can create dedicated calls or chat channels via these features. This is going to run through Opsgenie, which we had mentioned earlier is included for free in JSM Premium. It is also a standalone product, but Atlassian has now baked all of that into JSM directly. Atlassian is also still releasing that for a few customers, but most everyone should have this included in their JSM at this time. One thing to note is any agent can be able to join a conference call directly from the ticket and utilize video conferencing, chat, add notes, add additional responders to the call, etc. In terms of actual responders, whoever is put there, in this case, we can see that there are two, Wade and IT Ops. These responders are built out via Opsgenie, which we'll transition to right now. So this is Atlassian's incident alert and response tool that connects Jira Service Management with its different monitoring tools. Alerts within Opsgenie can become issues in JSM, and issues in JSM can trigger alerts in Opsgenie. So Opsgenie, again, has been rolled directly into JSM for most instances and is powered by the Teams feature. There is also an integration sidebar and quite a few other things to look at when it comes to this. So we can see our integrations here. This is where we're going to hook up our alerts to start getting information. And as we can see, there are quite a few different options, and Atlassian is constantly adding more, or we can always create your own as well. Underneath integrations are the automations that we can set up for part of this as well as internal syncs and things between alerts and other items. One really interesting feature is the heartbeats. So as opposed to utilizing Opsgenie as a defensive mechanism only, we can be proactive in setting up heartbeats. What heartbeats are going to do is give us a ping based on either every 5 minutes, an hour, whichever your use case is going to be. But it's going to give us a regular ping on a scheduled basis that we set, letting us know that everything is fine with that particular service. We can also, during the setup of the different heartbeats itself, we can say if we've missed 2 heartbeats in 3 hours, then put alert in and let us know that something is going on here. So this is a really interesting feature here, and I'm just going to quickly show what it looks like. So it's really simple to set up. We just add our name or description. We make sure we hook it up, either be the built-in email and API. Once it's set up, then it's really just set it and forget it. We're just going to wait for those pings to come in. And as soon as we're missing that ping, in this case, we're going to say, missed heartbeat, please investigate. That's going to be the alert message that is sent out to the teams that are responsible for covering this particular service. Also, one thing to note, there are also reports that are available in JSM Premium for ITSM for alerting. This is going to give you, if you don't happen to have enterprise, you are going to get some Atlassian analytics here. These are going to be your controls for this, and all you have to do is start giving your selections. Then you can utilize Atlassian analytics, even if you don't happen to have enterprise, which is a really powerful piece of information and powerful reporting. Also, you can get this for asset management as well. This same UI will be available for assets, for asset management reporting. Again, you also get Atlassian Analytics for that too. So it's nice that we can get this in 2 different places for service management within the premium stack. And with that, I'm going to transition back over to Brad, and he will take us through change management.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Great job with those demos. Hopefully you learned something new about service request management and incident management in JSM through those two demos. There are a lot more features that we just simply can't cover in 1 hour, but we do want to give you an overview of a lot of different ITSM processes. So keep that in mind as you are building out your service desk in JSM. The sky's really the limit with the integrations and the different features in these products. So we are going to transition, like Rachel said, to our change management section. So who's this really targeted towards? Our change managers and our developers are the two different personas that our demo is going to focus on. The challenge we see is how do we manage risk, coordinate our changes, and ease bureaucratic effort in our respect to our change management processes. Our solutions are going to be automated risk assessment, ticket creation, and resolutions. And our tools, of course, Jira Service Management. We'll also use Bitbucket and some automation. So let me close out of this. I'm going to jump over and I'm actually going to start this demo in Jira Software. And we're going to see how Jira Software, Jira Service Management, and Bitbucket can all be worked or connected together to help us manage changes. So I'm going to create a quick ticket for my software development team in this Scrum project. And the summary is going to be add Euro to payroll system, if I can type that correctly. So I need the software development team to make an update to our payroll system and add the Euro as a currency type. I'll create this ticket and just view the issue quickly. And we're going to come back to this here in just a little bit. But let's say this has been sent to our software team and they are ready to do the work on this request. We'll go over to Bitbucket now. And here are different repositories, and we can see that we've got a repository for our payroll system. So I'm going to make an update to one of the files in here, and I'll just click Edit. And for the sake of this demo, we'll pretend this is the update that I need to make. And I'll just come in here and make an update, and then I will click Commit. When I am executing my commit in Bitbucket, I have the option to add a commit message, and we definitely support this. This is a best practice, and in this case, I'm going to include the issue key of the story that I'm working on here. So SSP-135. So I will say updated per SSP-135, and I will click commit. So now that commit is executing. We can see the change that I made here in Bitbucket and that note that I added in the commit message. I'll go over to pipelines and we can see that this commit is in progress, and we're going to give it just a minute or two until it is either successful or fails, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, now we can see that this commit is successful, how long it actually took and when it started, etc. So the change has been deployed. Let's go back to our software ticket, and I'm going to refresh this. And once this reloads, we can see that there is one commit related to this ticket now, and that's because I used the issue key in that commit message. So I can view some information on this commit. I see the commit ID here, when it was last updated, the repository that it was in. I can view some additional information by clicking this link. We also see now in our linked issues section, we see that there is a linked change ticket here. This was created automatically when the code was deployed as a change ticket in JSM. And if we click on this, we can see that it's in the implementing status. It's related to the payroll system. We automatically added our payroll service here through all of those integrations. And you can actually configure this to, depending on the tier of your service, you could set up an automation where not only would this change ticket be created and moved to the implementing status, but once that ticket is, or excuse me, that commit is deployed successfully, this ticket could actually transition directly to the completed status. So that's a way to kind of monitor or manage, I should say, your change requests and some of that bureaucratic effort that we talked about. So we'll bypass approvals on lower tier services and changes related to those services. And again, the idea is creating those efficiencies by automating several processes and steps to deploy our particular changes. So let's go through this again. We're going to go back to our software project. And I will create another request for our development team, and I'll say mobile app update. And this is going to be associated with a different service, and we'll see some different behavior for this request. So again, we'll create this ticket for the development team. I'll click into that. It's SSP 136 this time. We'll go back over to Bitbucket and we'll go to our repositories and we'll find the mobile app repository. We'll edit another file in this repository. And we'll just make a quick update here and we'll click commit. And then we'll say updated per SSP-136, I think is what the key was. And it was. We'll select commit. And we'll go to our pipeline. And we'll give this just a second to update as well. And then we'll move on with our demo. While we're waiting for that, I see a question in the chat. Is the pipeline generating the JSM card on the Jira story, or is this automation behind it? The answer is automation. Automation is actually creating that change request. You can trigger automations based on actions from Bitbucket. So that's what's powering that. Back over here at our demo, we can see that this commit has been halted. And if we click into this, we can see some additional information. A change request is pending for this deployment. When the change request is complete, the deployment will automatically resume. So there has been a change created through kind of the same automation processes that we saw before. But let's go back to our software ticket and let's see what's going on with this one. It's a little bit different than our previous example. And we'll give this a second to reload. And we see that a change request was created. It's in a different status now. It's in the authorized status. So let's click into our change request. and find out what's going on there. And we can see this request requires your approval. So this change request, once it was created, was moved into a status that does require approvals. You can configure approvals on your statuses in your JSM workflows. It's very intuitive to configure, and you can configure who needs to provide those approvals in your workflows. So a really great feature of JSM. This one requires approval because it's the mobile app service in our service desk project, and it's a tier 1 service. So we have configured this to require approvals, and we can see over here in our approval section, one person from approvers must approve. I happen to be one of those approvers, so I'm just going to approve this ticket. And now it's moved into awaiting implementation. And if I transition this to implementing, so now we're actually implementing this change, we've approved it, etc. We'll go back to Bitbucket, and we can see that the commit has already restarted and it's actually deploying. And we can just wait for it to deploy here, and we can also view it in our pipelines area like we saw earlier, but we'll give this just a second to deploy. And we can see that this is now deployed. It was successful. If we go back to our change ticket, we can see the change has been automatically moved to completed because the deployment was committed and successful. Automation found the linked change management ticket and moved it to completed. And if I go back to our software ticket, as the development team, I'm able to review the change management ticket in the linked issues section on my software ticket, and I can see that the change was completed here as well. So that's just one way to manage your change management processes, or rather a couple different ways using Jira Service Management, Bitbucket, and automation. You can get really, really clever with your automations for your different change management processes. We see some clients creating several issue types for their different types of change that they enact within their organization, and they can have different workflows, different approval processes, etc. So a lot of good flexibility there with change management. So we've got just a few minutes left. I'm going to check the Q&A really quickly and see if there's anything else we can answer. It looks like we've gotten to almost all the questions in the Q&A. So if there are no further questions, we can go ahead and wrap up the webinar. Speaking of questions, if you have any moving forward on Jira Service Management, Incident Management, Change Management within JSM, any ITSM processes, or anything related to the Atlassian ecosystem, please feel free to reach out to myself or Rachel. Our contact info can be found through these QR codes. It'll be included in the chat. Please feel free to reach out via email or LinkedIn. And I mentioned our YouTube channel earlier. Please give that a check as well for a lot of great content, recordings of past webinars, our product updates, things in the Atlassian ecosystem, tips and tricks, all kinds of great content there. And then also this QR code on the right, feel free to scan that to view our Valiantys website and our training page, or just head over to valiantys.com. And you can view all of our upcoming training options, like those boot camps we talked about, and any upcoming webinars as well. So thanks again for being here, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this, and we hope to see you soon at one of our other webinars or boot camps, and have a great day.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everyone.